Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Asheville Transit Committee, July the 16th, 2024. We meet annually. We meet normally on the third Tuesday of the month, virtually from 5 to 7 p.m. The Transit Committee is a volunteer citizen board designed to offer input and guidance to the Asheville transit system and City Council. We do not set or change routes, control Asheville's transit budget, or have authority over staff, drivers, or the management company. We are a group of citizens like you who are here to ensure community concerns are taken into consideration when setting public transit policy. And in following the agenda, I'll go ahead and do the roll call right now. I'm your chairman, Harvey Harold. Sandy Aldridge. Can she hear Nicole?
She should be here shortly. I saw her just a few minutes ago. I'll check if we don't hear from her.
Nicole was saying she couldn't hear on her microphone.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see if we can fix that.
Okay. All right. I'll go on down the agenda. She can answer in a little bit. Elaine Barnes.
Here.
Elaine.
I'm here.
Thank you, Elaine. Joseph Chesler.
Good afternoon, Harvey.
Glad to hear your voice, Joe. Bill Loftus.
I don't think Bill will be with us today.
Okay.
I spoke to him earlier yesterday.
Nicole.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sandy is here. We're having a little issue with the laptop she's using. She's going to be calling in from her cell phone.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. And thank you, Joseph. I heard you about Bill because I know he's going to be here. Colin Kenton.
I'm here, Harvey.
There you go, Colin. Glad you're here. Kara Wheeler.
Here.
There you are, Kara. Good to see you. All right, we do have a quorum today. Okay, find out my staff. Paul Ballard. Paul is here. Jessica Morris. No, Jessica. Amber Wagner.
Here, Harvey.
Thank you, Amber. Christopher Whitlock.
Present.
Glad you're here, Chris.
Hey,
Chris.
Harvey.
Is that
This
Sandy?
is Sandy.
Oh,
Yes, I love your shirt. Chanel, Mr. Chanel today. I love it.
my goodness. Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it. All right. Christina Harris. Nicole Hart. Oh, I see Christina. Thank you, Christina. Nicole Hart. I know she's here. Keith, Keith Sanders.
Present.
Thank you, Keith. LaShawn Abraham.
Here.
Hi, LaShawn.
Hi.
Danielle Aiken.
I'm here, Harvey.
Thank you, Danielle. Nice to hear your vibrant voice. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for our meeting. At this time, we'll go ahead and go through the agenda and the minutes. We'll review and approval. July 16th, 2024. May I have a motion to accept the minutes dated July 16th, 2024?
I'll motion.
The agenda. Okay. May I have a second, please? For
Second.
the agenda. Thank you, Carol. Okay. Harvey Harold, yay. Sandy Aldridge,
Yay.
Elaine Barnes,
Yay.
Joseph Chesler,
Approved?
Colin Kenton,
Yay.
Kara Wheeler.
Yay.
Okay, that's the approval for the July 16th agenda. June 18th, 2024 minutes. May I have a motion to accept the minutes dated June 18th, 2024?
So moved.
Also move, Harvey.
May I have a second, please? May I have a second, please?
I'll
Mason.
second.
Second.
Thank you. Harvey Harrell, yes. Sandy Aldridge,
Yes.
Elaine Barnes,
Yes.
Joseph Chesler,
Yes.
Colin Kenton,
Yes.
Kara Wheeler.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on down the agenda, explanation of public comment and standards and opportunities. We have one letter that I have to read to everyone. Get in my position here. And this letter is to be read to the Transit Committee by Multimodal Transportation Commission. Chairman Jack Engelman suggests I read this from the Multimodal, and it comes from Jared Wheatley. This is a support of Councilwoman Moses' transit study proposal. Jared Wheatley. City Council. Strictly as a resident, I am writing a quick note of support for Councilwoman Moses' note that the $300,000 transit study is not likely to produce transit study new high-value information, and that the allocated funds, which were originally intended as a collaboration with the county, would be better allocated for some other use. Land use in Asheville is currently less than 3.5 dwelling units per acre, and our previously commissioned studies note that transit does not become sustainable until approximately 6 units per acre, 2018 comp plan, page 322, or 16 units per acre, MMHS page 11, is achieved along transit corridors. Until we seriously upzone along transit corridors and also see units constructed, we will likely see our geographic footprint combined with low density development housing impede our ability to have a smooth operating and accessible transit system. To reiterate, I believe in transit. However, it must follow land use or have such a large investment plus $1 billion as a drive to drive the market investment. And the $300,000 study will likely result in very marginal change and no sustainability. Jared Wheatley. Okay, that letter is in with the agenda for today in the committee. So look at it at their leisure. Acknowledge, we move on down. No, anyone had any comments about that letter? Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, Harvey, thank you. Just a note for those of you who don't know Jared, he's the liaison. He's on the Planning and Zoning Commission and a liaison to MMTC. He's had numerous conversations with Jared, and he also serves on a working group we have regarding transit in the MMTC, and very knowledgeable. And as you can tell, he's linking successful transit with density, which we don't really enjoy here in most of Asheville. So he's directly connecting the two, which will achieve, I believe, and Jared has expressed it, more robust use of transit by those who need it more. So just something to keep in mind as we move forward through our decision making. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Joseph. Kara?
Hey, Joseph, just a question for you. Do you know if we have any areas with that higher density? Do we have a map that shows the highest density areas in Asheville?
I don't have access to it now. Yes, we do have some areas in the downtown core, but we can research that and find it. Sounds like Nicole may have something to offer, but very little, certainly in the outside the downtown area.
Because I would actually love to see that overlaid with like the bus route and to see that linkage. I don't know who has that, how to get that information, but I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Nicole has her hand up.
We do have it.
Yeah. Nicole has her hand up. Nicole? Thank you, Joseph and Karen. Nicole?
Sorry, it's Sandy. She had wanted to make a point or had a question. She's logged on as me as well. And
Oh,
me as
okay. Well, she can go ahead and speak because it's not showing up on my screen.
Let's see.
Is her mic working?
It was. Give me 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know her hand is still up on Nicole Hart.
We can certainly this is Kim, your transit liaison from City Council. I know that we can pull those up. I was trying to pull them up quickly to answer the question, but ultimately I think it's a good resource to have that you could attach to future agenda items as well.
Oh, I was going to speak to you in a minute, Kim. Thank you for being here today.
Harvey, we can provide that information and include it in the agenda following, or provide it just as information for you guys for resource.
Okay. Thank you, Amber.
This is Sandy. Sorry about the confusion or whatnot, but I just had a really quick comment about the guy that I can't think of his name right off that wrote that about the 300 grand. It should be used for something else, because I will totally agree that that would be the best thing to do, because until everybody gets on the same page, you know, and has the same goals in sight, it would be better just to do something else. So he is right on point with that. I agree with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Are there any more comments about the letter that I read, the email that I read? If there aren't, we'll move on. The last thing I was wanting to say, but the input is very valuable. That's what I want to say. Acknowledgements. Art employees of the quarter. I don't want to get into that last name, but he's maintenance technician and employee for over 9 years, resides in Chandler, and his wife of 10 years. Their 4 children. He enjoys fishing, soccer, and is a car enthusiast. And Brian Kelso, bus operator. Mr. Kelso also an employee for the past 6 months. Recently moved to Asheville from Pennsylvania, bringing 30 years of experience driving transit. Mr. Kelso enjoys spending time with his wife and family. So I take it someone in staff will go with that one.
Thank you, Chair Harold. We think it's very important for us to recognize these two art individuals. Mr. Eli Bratnichenko, if he's on here, he can turn on his camera. As the maintenance tech, he's the maintenance representative. And we have Brian Kelso, who is our bus operations representative. The qualifications that we use, and we thought it was practical and vital to recognize them, is their commitment to attendance, safety, customer, not having any customer complaints. All of those things are very vital in order for us to show our continued commitment, not only to ARC the company, but to the community that we serve. We certainly appreciate these 2 very fine individuals as employees of the quarter, and we look forward to recognizing not only them, but our staff as well, our remaining staff. Thank you very much.
May I ask you a question, Keith?
Yes, sir.
I noticed you mentioned safety and experience. Is there a checklist of things that you look at for the employee of the quarter?
Yes, we do. We look at an employee having 0 preventable accidents, 0 customer complaints, as well as perfect attendance, barring any federal regulations such as FMLA.
Okay, sounds good. That's great. I'm glad y'all brought that about, employees of the quarter. So mostly every quarter is 2 employees, or it might just be 1?
It will be 2 employees, one from maintenance and the other one from operations.
Okay. All right.
We do award the employees with a financial incentive as well as a trophy and a reserved parking space for the quarter.
They get a trophy too?
Yes.
Right. They don't get 50 on the side.
And we have to be good stewards. so no.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that, Keith. I appreciate that very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Kim Roney, page 50 of the draft missing middle housing study.
So if you Google missing middle housing study Asheville, you will see page 50 of the missing middle housing study includes a future land use map. I just wanted to point out that might be helpful to overlap with when you're talking about current density, not to distract from our good news report that we're getting, but link to future reference.
That's what I was looking for, Kim, that MMHS. I was wondering what that stood for. Was that somebody else wanting to say something? Missing middle housing study. I was wondering what that meant. Thank you for that information, Kim. I appreciate it very much. Is there anything anyone else would like to say about the acknowledgements?
Harvey, I would love to say something. Mr. Brian.
Sorry.
Oh, I can't. I don't have a.
Go ahead.
I don't have a hand thing to
Okay.
push so right now. But I know
Mr.
Brian is okay.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can.
Okay.
Go ahead. Hello.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm Now I know.
Now we can hear you.
Ooh, okay, let me breathe. Ooh, okay. So Brian is the coolest guy. He's very sweet, very kind. He keeps it simple. I never see him argue with anyone. He's always very congenial, and I think he totally deserves recognition. Yes, that's all. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Uh-huh.
Are there any more comments about our outstanding employees of the quarter? If not, we'll move on to new business. Transit committee meetings, discussion and motion to continue holding transit committee meetings virtually or in person. The hybrid option will not be available until 2025. On October 18th, 2022, the committee voted 4-1 to continue meeting virtually. So is there any discussion as far as the way we meet now? And like I said, the hybrid won't be available until 2025. Is there any discussion or motion to go as we are? Colin? And then Kim.
Yes, Harvey. I just don't think that our meeting virtually like this is the most efficient way of meeting, and that, you know, with continual technical difficulties and just doesn't seem to be or foster effective communication with everybody. So thanks.
Thank you, Colin. Kim?
Yeah, I just wanted to gonna see if I can get on camera for this so we can participate. I just wanted to report back as one of the members of the Equity and Engagement Committee of Council. We did just get an update from city staff about the hybrid meeting process. This was part of the ARPA COVID-19 relief funds that we have invested into communities and making our meetings more accessible. So as a member of the regional transportation planning body, the French Broad River MPO, we've been doing hybrid meetings for 4 years. And one of the things that we found is that we had record attendance because not all of our members were able to commute to the meetings in the past. But it ends up being maybe 50-50 in person and virtual, and it changes. Some people are able to be there in person sometimes, and sometimes they're not. But we're really close to that being an option for the transit committee. So if members are feeling stuck on what that looks like, or if you have any concerns about whether or not you'll be able to attend meetings, I know I won't be able to attend meetings all the time if they're in person. So that's something just to consider, that you're really close to being able to have more options than you do right now. So if this self-imposed timeline of a vote feels urgent, that the transit committee also doesn't have to make that decision today, because we will have more information soon. So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. Nicole Hart has her hand raised. That might be Sandy. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me, Harvey?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just here with a broken arm and 2 broken wrists. So so when, you know, they were in person, you know, I saw you and Kim before. That's good. I think in person is good. But when you consider the weather type thing or whatnot, and people getting sick and all that kind of stuff, it gets colder, you know, it may be better off to do it virtually type thing. Just, you know, as we go along, maybe type thing, to see where everybody's at and go from there. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Amber has her hand raised. Go ahead, Amber.
Excuse me. I just wanted to clarify, this was discussed at last meeting. You wanted us to research the options. These are the two that you have currently. It is self-imposed on whether you all want to vote on this or you want to remain it. That is completely up to the discretion of the Transit Committee.
Elaine Barnes. Go ahead, Elaine.
I think at least being able to move to hybrid meetings as soon as possible would enhance our activity. So whether we want to vote now or just wait a few more months, it's not going to be that long until something else is available. But I do think we need an alternative from totally virtual meetings, if at all possible.
Thank you, Elaine, for your good insight. Kara.
Agree with everyone's comments. A meeting in person is really good and helpful and really helps conversation go. I know I'll struggle a little bit getting off work to get here on time, depending on my work schedule that week. But perhaps while we're waiting for that hybrid meeting, we could have like something in the middle where like every other month we're in person and the other ones were hybrid. We know like December is probably a high travel month for a lot of people. And maybe we want to do that one virtually. I don't know if that would just add a lot of confusion, but it could help get some of that in-person dialogue that I think we're all craving. And also keep a little bit of flexibility as we're trying to get to the hybrid that's hopefully coming out next year. Just my 2 cents, and I'll try to make whatever I can, even if it's in person.
Okay. Thank you, Kara. So Kara, you're wanting to be in person?
I think in person would help a lot. Although, I got off work at 4:30 today and Zoomed to get here on time for this. So I think it would be harder, but I think it would be very helpful to be in person. But just acknowledging it's going to be difficult for.
And what was that you were mentioning about every other month?
Perhaps as a compromise, as we're waiting for hybrid, could we, meet every other month in person? That way we're still getting some in-person dialogue time. That might just add a lot of confusion. I was just throwing out a suggestion.
Well, appreciate your input, Kara. Thank you. Joseph?
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. I certainly see advantages to continuing meeting virtually in terms of access to documents and file sharing, what have you. However, I tend to agree with Colin and Kara. I think it would be much more effective for us to quickly return to a in-person meetings format, even though it does take a little more energy to move around and meet as a group. I think it's much more effective in terms of interactive sharing and so forth.
Okay. So you're necessarily wanting to be virtual for right now, Joe?
No, well, for right now, clearly, but I think we should move to in-person meetings as soon as possible.
But for today, you're virtual.
I have no choice.
We're all virtual.
Just gotta ask. I gotta push the issue. Bill, he's not here today. So basically, it's a split here between virtual and in person. We don't have to vote today. We can give it another couple of months. But like I said, it's a split on the virtual and in person. And Bill's not here to break the tie. Is Bill here?
Harvey, this is Kim. Can I ask another question?
Mm-hmm.
there's a survey for a retreat coming up. And I noticed when the Human Relations Commission went from virtual meetings, we regularly had quorum. Then we went to in-person and we had trouble getting quorum. But at the retreat, it was so helpful for people to see each other in person and to test it out. So maybe there's a way to put the chicken and the egg in the same room and say, let's plan for an in-person retreat, because that's the best way to do a retreat, and see if there's issues getting everybody together. And like, it's a good way to take the temperature on if it works getting everybody together.
Yes, I like that. I like that very much. Give it time to go to the retreat. We won't have that much long before we do go to a retreat. Sounds like a good idea. Thank you, Kim. Colin?
Yes, Harvey. Can we hear from staff regarding Kara's idea of alternating virtual and in-person to see if that is an option?
Yes, everybody's opinion is valued. Amber?
I think we can make, at least from my standpoint, this would be at the transit committee discussion. I believe we could make both work, and it would be up to you all. We would have to find a location that we would be able to record, which we can find one. We would just have to research availability. I don't know, Nicole, is there anything that's prohibiting us from doing one personal, and I think Kim also, or in person and one virtual, or make that decision? We had been planning that the retreat would be in person, kind of like the multimodal, and you all were given a doodle poll to vote on that. So I think up to staff, we're pretty flexible. I do like to meet you all in person. It's been great. Kara's been came to our office and we met personally. It's nice, but we also understand the flexibility of virtual.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Nicole?
Yes, sir. My concern is just parking, available parking. We, even as employees, we have a hard time finding places to park. Also, just keep in mind, it's not, we can't do both. So if someone cannot attend in person, they won't be able to attend virtually. If it is an in-person meeting, they just won't be able to participate.
Right. So this is where we are right now, because we don't have the hybrid option yet. That we're asking for the consistency, for posting consistency, but also expectations for the public and for all of y'all. We're still stuck at that spot of asking the advisory boards to choose either fully virtual or in person. And I do want to just name that, like, I'm, kind of being a stick in the mud on this, because it's a great idea to like schedule a workaround. And I appreciate that creativity, but I think that it's something that really helps for the staff and for the public to be able to have some expectations around which was going to be which.
I think it is for consistency purposes and planning. It makes it easier if we stick with one for the time being. But with that said, I do understand the need to meet sometimes in person. Particularly, I think it's really important for the retreat that we all see each other eyeball to eyeball.
Right, we'll see each other. Thank you, Amber, and thank you, Kim. Colin, and then Joseph.
Yes, Harvey, I'd like to make a motion that we resume our meetings in person.
I'll second that, Colin.
Okay. You make a motion that we do that. Meet in person. In person. Do we have a let me see. So he made the motion, seconded. All right. I guess we'll go for it.
Well, we could discuss it first.
In person. Basically, we've already discussed it. You have 3 people in person, and you have virtual, and a hybrid.
Well, here's the thing about the procedure is that typically the chair, after you have a motion, a second on the floor, it requires a vote, like a formal vote. The chair would typically call a question after discussion. So even though there's been a discussion, you could say, are there any other points? And then at some point, either the chair, usually, or a member can say, call a question. And it's like, it's a very theatrical thing where it forces the vote to happen at that moment. Usually it's considered good form to allow room for another discussion. But you have a motion and a second on the floor means you got to vote.
Harvey, I have a question or a comment
Go ahead, Joe.
as a seconder. Nicole's point about parking and other difficulties in meeting downtown leads me to think that we don't need to meet downtown, even though I know it may be a burden for staff to travel to one of our community centers or another location that is available. It doesn't need to be a difficult thing if parking is one of the primary considerations. So I support in-person meetings as early as we can achieve it.
Thank you, Joseph. Kara and then Amber.
I guess my first comment is all the buses are spoken wheel into downtown. So I personally think if we're going to do in person, it should be downtown. So we're not trying to all the time out transfers because that's going to be a mess. And then my second question is if there's anyone who can't do it in person who we like for sure know, I think like as a committee, we should wait until there's a hybrid option so that we're not exclusive. Like I haven't heard that anyone can't for sure, but if there is that person, then I think we should consider that. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Thank you, Kara. Amber?
The one thing that I would mention with the in-person is that downtown, we would need to find a site that we can record and be able to do our YouTube recordings. So some of the downtown, the city buildings are easier to do that, but we can work on that, and we'll find suggested places.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Appreciate that very much. Kim?
Yeah, so Joseph brings up a good point that we have multiple community centers where the city can program events. However, keeping up with our commitment to improve access to meetings, we are also upfitting some of the community centers with the infrastructure to be able to record. That comes after hybrid meetings. So that's part of the ARPA funding package. And I realize that, you know, you're operating with not all of that information as you're making this decision today. But the first and primary preference is to meet in City Hall, usually in the first floor conference room. What it does bring up to mind is that keeping in mind that 30% of our routes end at or before 7:30. So people who are transit dependent would just need to be able to leave in time to get back home.
Exactly. Okay, so everybody voiced their opinion. I'm not for for in person. Joseph, go ahead.
Harvey, thank you. To Kim's point and some of the concerns raised by Amber and Nicole, I'm going to withdraw my second at this time and wait for a more complete proposal, because I'm very happy with the virtual format, but I think we should just, my intention in supporting the motion originally was just to make a decision basically and get it done as soon as, change the format as soon as possible. But I'm going to withdraw my second for this at this juncture.
Thank you, Joseph. The best thing that I've heard going forward in this is that it will behoove us to wait until we go to our retreat. That way we can necessarily be in front of each other, talk to each other, have a formal discussion amongst one another, and come up with a formidable opinion, consensus of everybody at that time. So could we just go ahead and table that for right now until we go to retreat? Would everybody agree to that?
Point of
Yep.
order, Harvey, I withdrew my second, so the motion stands as proposed, but there's no second unless someone else wants to step in. So it essentially is moot.
So what did you say?
So for the way that the
Right.
procedure work, what Joe
Right.
is mentioning is correct, because he's removed the second. This is where another member of the body could say,
Yeah.
I second it, and then you move forward and have to vote again. But because of the removal of the second, you don't have to take an action today unless there's another second.
Okay. Good. So we have to ask, does anybody want to second? I take that as a no. So we'll go ahead and table that until our next meeting or the retreat.
If I may take a moment of privilege here and just say the conversation that y'all are having is really important. I know that it's important to council and to staff that people be able to gather together and bring your professional and lived experience to the table. And I'm hearing loud and clear that you want to be able to meet in person because you know that that interaction is worthwhile and important and the best way to hold the meeting. But I'm also hearing that our push to get hybrid meeting options is also important. And I'm happy to carry that forward to the Equity Engagement Committee and let them know that the Transit Committee, in addition to other advisory boards, enthusiastically and supports us moving as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. Transit discussion. Okay. So we'll be moving on to the City of Art Comprehensive Operations Analysis.
That would be me. I just wanted to provide an update on staff activities. I had hoped to be able to share a scope of work with you all, but due to time, and we are still working on a community engagement plan to incorporate our stakeholders and multimodal and the transit committee. We will be providing that at a later date, hopefully in August. We did receive the go-ahead from city leadership to go forth with the comprehensive operation analysis. So staff has been working this past month, less than a month, on the scope of work in the RFP solicitation that is hoping to release in August, but we will be providing you all additional information, including the scope, when we're able to, after it's been discussed a little bit more and we go through the necessary channels so we can share it with council and our commissions and you all, the and service recommendation that would include our capital needs, all under the eyes and looking under with current data, including our transit master plan. These are just some initial goals. We also did share with you all, I know Councilmember Roney shared with you as well, the draft goals that kind of are guiding the scope development. And that is the stage that we're in right now. We just wanted to make sure you were all updated and informed, and you will be given all the information in the next steps next month, hopefully.
Thank you. There any discussion with that? I appreciate that, Amber. Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up in the queue. Okay, Kara, go ahead.
Hey Amber,
Hey there.
looking at the statement, I think it's under enhanced service quality and reliability, the use data analytics to understand ridership trends. Would the goal for this be for them to help set up a system that we would be able to use this going forward, where we wouldn't need to hire expensive contractors to do this every couple of years, but we have a way to have something lasting that, we can see it on a real-time basis?
Well, I think, COAs are used as kind of a short-term planning effort for operations planning and service planning. So a lot of these can be 5 to 10 years. We wanted to see something with immediate recommendations that would give us things that we could implement quickly, that would improve based on in community and stakeholder input. And then it could guide us through the process, determining, I'm sorry, that's my phone. Depending on what comes from that, this usually is a 5 to 10 year plan. None last forever, but these are given the recommendations, and hopefully they'll take into account the recommendations that were utilized in the transit master plan. So I don't know if that provided a good answer for you. I'm sorry. I have to shut this off. I was distracted.
It's
Okay.
very good.
Kara, go ahead.
I guess my question was how are we setting ourselves up for the future to be continuously nimble? Because I know you've mentioned it before that we've seen changes in ridership, since COVID, for example, and how are we thinking about setting ourselves up to be nimble? Because we know things are going to change over time.
I think a lot of that is utilizing service planning, and to be honest, we haven't been staffed up for it. And but there's been a lot of vacancies with city staff since when we first implemented the service changes and from now. So I think given the tools, maybe we look at our service standards in a greater light that gives us the tools to be able to kind of flag things when there's issues based on performance on riders per mile or riders per hour. That gives us that ability to come and make some of those short-term recommendations that we can, quickly and more nimbly than we have in the past, able to, better meet the riders and our community members than just continuing to provide a service that possibly, if we just did some slight adjustments at some stops and maybe straighten them out, it might, and look at ride generation, it might improve services. So I think all of these things will help give us the tools to look at these for, immediate, long-term, and short-term. So we say we make this slight tweak or adjustment in a route, in the next 6 months. What do we look at for the next year or so with this? So I think it'll give us kind of a short-term guidebook on what we should be looking at and seeing if they're successful. A lot of it is just setting up performance standards and looking at kind of some service guidelines and frequency needs, along with kind of just what we'd like to see for the performance of our system, all keeping under the guise of equity and looking at some of the past plans and data that we have.
Okay. Kara, go ahead.
Thanks, Amber. That gave a lot of clarity. So I'm really asking just from a point of trying to gain understanding. So we know We1, We2 is 60% of our ridership, right? They're massive compared to the rest of the routes. What's stopping us right now from being okay, what's the next step we need to take to go get extended Sunday service for those routes or to go get night service? I haven't seen the data. I don't know what time specifically they need, but I know there are highest volume routes. What does the COA help us get? I guess is my question. Well,
it would help us look at if our resources are aligned with where the needs are and the generation is. If we have to look at a cost neutral plan due to resources, which is what we had to do this year, we have to look at things like maybe there's an underutilized route, or maybe there's a route segment that could be adjusted that we would increase ridership. Those are the items that we need to look at and possibly look at an expansion plan, but we also have to keep it under the guise of investing in our asset management and investing in buses so we can also provide an expanded service when we have available resources that you all can advocate for. And once we have a better plan.
Thanks. I was muted.
Hopefully, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Like I said, I was hoping to be able to share additional information with you, but it's been a short month and people have been out, and we're just making sure that we do our due diligence in our engagement plan.
Thank you, Amber. Are there any questions? Okay. Moving on to old business. Transit Committee retreat information item. Committee members were to discuss recent planning activity of upcoming retreat and potential date and time frame of the retreat. Kara?
Yes. So since last meeting, the working group, Colin, Harvey, and myself have met, tweaked the outline a little bit more since what y'all saw last week. No real content changes, just kind of moving things around and kind of talking about how to look at that for flow. Met with Amber and with Paul, I think last week. They have went ahead and got some dates from the facilitator. Y'all should have seen a doodle poll come out this morning. It looks like we're still partially surveyed on there, and it's actually looking like we don't quite have a date that works for everyone yet. So Amber, I'm not sure if there's anything we can do with the facilitator. I know we've already asked her for extra dates before.
We can maybe just discuss it offline, and we can reach out. Chris and I can reach out to Christina to see if there's additional dates possibly. I guess we would have to maybe just reach out to individual committee members to see if it's the time that doesn't work, or because we were trying to shoot for Fridays between 10 and 2 to 3. Possibly maybe something else. We were trying to steer clear of Saturdays. But I don't know if that works better for other committee members. Maybe we need to pull some additional dates and Saturday in there to provide. I haven't had time to look at the results yet, and I don't even think I've responded to it. I think most of them can work for me. I don't know based on what the committee is, but we can go offline. We can add more dates, and kind of move forward from there.
Okay. Does anyone who had dates that wasn't working specifically have things that would work better, just so we have a direction to go with for asking the facilitator?
Well, I went ahead and fill out my doodle poll, but the main thing is for everybody to get on board and fill it out. The dates and they just that's all they need to do is jump on board, and then we can actually see what we have.
We can send out another reminder too, because it was just sent out yesterday. We can give them a deadline, and Nicole can reach out and just check to see who hasn't responded yet.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks, Amber. And then
Jim.
Sorry, go ahead, Elaine.
Kim had her hand up first.
Oh.
No, I didn't have my hand up. It's Elaine. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to be sure because should I talk?
Yes.
Okay. I responded. Have you sent out a second survey, or are you just trying to get people to respond to the first one?
There's on. Go ahead, Karen. There's only been one.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes. But it gets kind of tricky if you keep pushing on the buttons. It'll say that doesn't agree, or I'm about there with that one, but then it goes back to you have to select one, and then mine said I had selected too many or whatever, but I had to do it all over again.
It does look like that most of you all have responded. We've got Kara, Harvey, Colin, Elaine, Bill. Those who, Joseph, you haven't responded yet. It's hard to find a date. So we can go back to the drawing board and calendar and try to find a few more dates.
Okay.
And we keep in continual communication. Kara, I mean, the goal was we were going to reach out to the facilitator kind of once we landed on one and start that process with looking at the agenda, bringing in the facilitator, having them discuss kind of the goals with Kara and the working group. So we will continue to work with Kara and the working group on dates and kind of the next steps forward once we kind of land on that successful date that we can all meet.
Okay. Currently, are we still working with 3 venues?
I think that remains to be seen when we find a date. We'll start looking. We would possibly look at some of the city facilities. I think you guys on the MMTC did the fire department or the emergency center, and then there's the public works that we just hosted. So there's options with parking that we can look.
Yeah, because the 3 that I have is work, City Hall, and the fire.
And they're all available via transit. So we would try to make sure and that we do them in the hours that are the simplest and easiest for you all. And if we have to move to some Saturdays, we can also, staff can be accommodating. It'd be nice to do it on a Friday, I think, for everybody's schedule, but we understand the constraints with work and other activities too. So we'll try to be mindful, ask Christina for some other dates.
Okay. Sounds good. Joseph. Oh, no constraints. Joseph, he just voted. No constraints.
I don't know how I ignored responding, but anyway, all dates and times.
We're human, Joe. We're human. We're all human. Thank you for responding. Okay. Kara, have anything else to add to the
no other updates unless anyone else had any other questions or thoughts for the retreat. But I know in June, when we talked about this before, we all said it was important to do it sooner rather than later. So just kind of try and keep that in mind as we're all trying to get our schedules lined up for that one.
Like I said, mainly I don't have any restrictions on a Friday now, because all of those were listed on a Friday. So I'm good with that. If there are no more discussions on the retreat, we'll move forward. All minds are clear. Okay. Art service updates. N1 and N2, starting July the 1st, art routes resume service on all bus stops on the UNCA campus.
This was just a good news informational item because folks had been asking about it, and we're excited that it's back up and running. So, and I know the writers are.
Okay, Elaine, and then Joseph.
I just wanted to say I've ridden the route since it reopened, and it's really nice. Thank you.
That's good to hear, Elaine. Amber, what incentives do we give students at UNCA to ride the transit?
They are included in our UNC, our passport program. UNC Asheville is included in that. So there's discounted rides that they can request for a sticker. We're working on that process. It's an annual process that they get like a year sticker, and that they can ride and the university will pay for it, dependent on their needs. The university controls that program and how they distribute those stickers. but they have provided them in the past. I know there's some budget cuts, but I don't know if that'll be impacting the numbers that'll ride, but it is available there. Our transit fare is still relatively inexpensive, but the UNC Asheville does pay for some of those students to ride.
Good deal.
It's different than our bus passes then.
Yes. They can probably receive a discounted, because students usually get a discounted pass. So they could also do that. Currently, right now, a lot of them operate under the UNC Asheville passport program.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good stuff. Okay. Okay. I didn't know whether LaShawn and them had anything to add to that or not.
I guess from operations, LaShawn, are we seeing, I haven't looked, it just started 2 weeks ago. So I don't know what the ridership is. I'm assuming we did see some decreased ridership due to those detours and just the holding over. So hopefully that'll reinvigorate the ridership along those two routes.
Because I was wondering whether they got anything positive back from that starting back up.
No, we haven't heard anything as of yet.
A lot of them aren't there yet. So we'll probably hear more as they start planning for when they return to campus.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it is summertime. Yeah. Yes.
That's all I have, Harvey, in terms of kind of our service updates. That was just good news. We were excited to be able to add their detours, and the construction went on for quite a while. Did Harvey freeze up?
No, it's
It's
just posing.
Isn't me? Hello?
No, it's not you. I think
Okay.
Harvey.
Look, it looks like he's gazing out the window.
I'll text him to let him know that he's.
Yeah.
We could probably move on to the next item while we're waiting.
We have no chair.
I think we're done with the old business, and I think the next item would be the transit committee member updates and rider experiences.
Don't we have a vice chair?
I think Sandy is the vice chair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thought so.
She had to leave.
Okay.
If we have no chair
Hand
and no
raised.
vice chair,
Nicole
have
has
a meeting.
hand raised. Nicole?
It sounds like Harvey jumped back on.
Yes.
There you are. Harvey, talk to me. You're muted.
Did somebody call my name?
Oh, is that the vice chair?
Join back. Gets lost.
Got a bad connection.
Okay. Okay, I'm back on it.
Harvey, you're on the video twice. So that's why there's
There's a feedback.
feedback. So I muted one of your channels. You'll need to unmute one of them, but mute the other one. It looks like you may have a computer up and a phone on. So if you're using the phone for audio, then just mute your computer screen, and then you shouldn't have issues with the feedback. It'll be if you're listening to the meeting through your computer that it creates the feedback on the phone. And now you'll need to unmute your computer. I can see that it's still muted. There.
Right. That done it. I'm back. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, we're on to rider experience, I think.
Yeah. Transit Committee member updates and rider experiences. Hopefully the power will stay on, but the clouds are getting darker. Okay. Do we have any rider experiences, rider updates? Kara, go ahead.
Hey Harvey, so Chris, this is kind of going to question I emailed you about. So I was in West Asheville, texted the app, headed outbound, and the app said the bus was 3 minutes away. The bus ended up showing up like 12 minutes after that. And Chris, you were explaining in your email about if the bus hasn't been assigned yet, then it's giving you the scheduled time versus the real time. And I would just love more information on that. And I thought in person or not via email might help me gain understanding.
Yeah. Let's see. So the real-time estimates, that's what you're referring to. So when you text that number, you'll get real-time estimates. If there's no tracking available on the vehicle, that's one common issue, and that will basically prevent it from being able to provide you with real-time estimates, and it will instead provide you with the scheduled data. So if the vehicle is supposed to get there at 7:12, that's what it's scheduled to be there. But its real-time estimate is 7:14. It'll provide you that real-time estimate if it's actually sort of tracking the vehicle. When at the end of a trip, the system is supposed to do something called like an auto trip switch, which basically switches the trip to the following trip, and that way there's a seamless connection to the vehicle, and it'll be able to provide you with the real-time estimates. So as long as that auto trip switch is working properly. In this situation, the auto trip switch did not connect or did not, do its job and switch to the following trip. And the vehicle started approximately 7 minutes late. So I think this is an issue that I have experienced at the previous transit agency I was coming from. I think sometimes this could be due to driver behavior, and I'll need to figure out what exactly happened at that time on that day. I'm thinking that perhaps the driver signed out or turned off the tablet for some reason, and then in which case it wasn't connected at all and it provided you with the scheduled data. Those are a couple of possibilities. Like it could be driver behavior. There could be something else wrong, but that's the kind of common issue, at least in my experience. So that kind of, I don't have a really good answer for you, but hopefully that kind of explains it for you and everyone else here.
Okay. Kara?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That gave clarity. So I guess if it's just like a one-time issue, I'm not really concerned. I don't want y'all to waste a lot of time digging into it. But if it's an issue others are experiencing, would love to know, like, how do we get those to be more accurate? Or even in the text that responds back, if it was a scheduled arrival versus the real time, that would have been cool knowledge to have. I don't know if that's possible. It was just, I was standing at the bus stop and thought it was coming and it wasn't. And I'm sure other people in the community have that same experience.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Chris. And
no,
then
yeah, I think there are some limitations in what we can provide in the text. But yeah, I hear you. I think we need to kind of dig a little deeper. It shouldn't happen a lot, but it has been known to happen. But yeah, I can get more information for you.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Kara. LaShawn, go ahead.
I
And
was
then
just,
Colin.
thank you, Harvey. I was just gonna say, Kara, if you have that date and time, I can take a look into it as well.
I'll forward you the email.
Thank you.
Thank you, LaShawn. Colin.
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. I had a similar situation happen, brought to Amber's attention a couple months ago via email, where the app said I'd missed the bus. I told the person who was waiting for the bus with me that according to the app, the bus was gone and we missed it, even though that we were there on time. And she was quite frustrated with that and had to walk. And then lo and behold, the bus shows up 5 minutes later, and which became my taxi ride all the way home, because the bus being late or telling the app that it wasn't actually there, and the bus drivers rushed to try to get back on time, it just ended up just being me and the bus driver for the whole trip. So that's the problem when bad information goes out, then people aren't going to ride the bus because they think they've missed it, or for many other reasons.
So just if I could chime in, Colin, I don't know what the situation is exactly in your case. But the third-party apps, they process the data that we provide, and sometimes there's a lag in that information. But if we're providing the bad data, that's one thing. But I have had that same experience, but it's the app itself and not necessarily the data that's coming from us. But again, I don't know what the situation is with your instance, but that's just something that could happen.
Okay. Kara, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Okay, thanks, Harvey.
Okay. Go ahead, Amber.
Sorry. I guess the thing that we request, because these things help us work with swiftly or kind of pinpoint. And I know, Colin, I think when you emailed me, I think we included it to Chris and LaShawn to look at, because sometimes it could be a driver not logging in. Sometimes it's a third party app. Sometimes there's issues with the real time feed. These are things that if you communicate it with us, we will try to look into. If you send it to all three of us, LaShawn, myself, and Chris, we'll do our best to get the answers and look it up. We're sorry that this happens, but sometimes it just does with dealing with the technology. We'd like it to not happen often. So sometimes we can chase this information down or have Swiftly kind of take a deeper dive into it for us. Because we had that issue with the legs a while back too, probably over a year ago. And I know Colin has had them happen in other instances. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the problem I had on that route that day was y'all had a bus issue at the transit station. For whatever reason, the bus didn't leave or didn't have a driver, but the app assumed that the bus was gone. So I didn't call the number. I was getting ready to call the number to find out, and then all of a sudden the bus just showed up out of the blue. So with no riders except for me. So.
It was like the ghost bus.
Yeah, well,
it wasn't probably logged in, so it didn't even show up.
But we had fun. Got to honk out a bunch of other people. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's why I was wondering when I was riding the bus ever since October. Is it the app that they're using or what? Because most of my time I use the transit app and I never had any problems with it. And if I was concerned about what time the bus is going to be here, I always looked at the sign in front of me and I dialed the number and gave the number of the stop, and the bus was right on time all the time. Is it the app that they're using or what? No answer.
I was gonna let Chris.
Oh, I thought I was
Chris
talking.
is better.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, you were muted.
Yeah. I mean,
because I always use the transit app.
It's hard to say. There are issues with Google Maps that don't exist in the transit app. So, I would trust transit app over Google. A lot of times, I'm thinking, I looked up the email column for your situation, and it did occur at the beginning of the trip. Similar to, I think, Kara's experience on December 1st. So those could be resulting from the same issue. So yeah, I'll have to look into that, and then we can follow up with Swiftly to see if they can provide us any information.
And I'm using the transit app. I'm not using Google.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm using the same thing Harvey does.
all right. I've never had that problem, but things do happen. All right, Kim has her hand raised. Wait, Kim.
I just wanted to provide some experience as a previous transit committee member. Sometimes, because you're interacting with the bus so much, and then you're in this meeting as well. This meeting inspires folks to think of all this one experience that went poorly or was awesome. But it can be, what I've learned is it can be so helpful to staff if they know closer to the time that it actually happens. And I found for myself that if I just created a little quick form, that it saved me time. I didn't have to think about what I was going to write. And so I was more likely to send it. And I sent one fairly recently about my experience at the airport. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send this to Harvey. It might be something you'll want to talk about the retreat where you can formalize it, but you will get better response, and it might help you make this meeting a little bit more streamlined. It's in the email subject, put the route number and the closest intersection. In the email, put the route and the direction. So S3 inbound, the date, the about time-ish, and then as much detail as you can give on the experience, and then hit send. Because if you can just do that real quick, it might be an issue like what I've been seeing with the app. I'm watching the GPS, the little picture of the bus. And then sometimes there's a data glitch and it's just loading for 30 seconds. You're like, uh-oh, the bus is moving faster than it's showing up. And then something happens where what Chris was saying, it'll switch to the next route and it'll look like I missed the bus, but I'm still watching the bus's GPS move. Those kinds of emails going fast to staff allows them to jump on the situation really quickly. And then you might have an answer before this meeting, but it's so helpful because we're starting to be able to notice trends in what's happening. We can get better contracts for our data access and make sure that we have equipment that's working on the buses. And if it's happening to us, that's the tip of the iceberg because there's so many people that ride the bus. So I'm going to share it with Harvey, use it how you want to, make it your own or formalize it as a group. But it made it easier for me to be oh, I don't have to think about it. It's just going to be these 4 things, hit send. And that way staff can respond and maybe get ahead of something before it comes all the way back to your next meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Okay. Any more rider experiences? Okay. I'll go ahead. For my rider experiences, we also Chris and I went through a travel training meeting. And in that meeting, Chris might put an ear to this. Make sure I got all the dates right as far as we added some, you and LaShawn, a couple of new fare-free days. The dates that I have are fare-free September 19th. I think that's the car-free week. October the 9th, fare-free. Walk by rock and roll. And then election day, which is always a fare-free day.
And so, yeah, sorry, Harvey.
Those are correct.
The September 19th was the original proposed date, but that changed to a different week, the first week of October. And then the second date was correct, and yeah, the third date as well. So I think we're still trying to land on those 2 dates in October.
So we got 2 dates in October?
Possibly, and that wasn't planned or discussed until last week. So we still need to take it to the team and discuss that. So yeah, we'll come back with more information once we're able to do that. But yeah, there may be a day in the week of the September 30th. Then the Wednesday, which I believe is October 9th, and then for election day. Election day is definite. That will be a free fare day.
Oh yeah, that's always definite. Okay, thank you, Chris. All right. For rider experiences, I got a chance to see one of my drivers. His name, I was supposed to know his name because it's like my son's name, and he said, "I'm not telling you my name." I said, "You said you supposed to know my name." He said, "Because you said you was gonna remember it." So we were still laughing about it, talking about it. But his name is Anthony. And he's a good driver. He picked me up on the WE1 out on Lester Highway. But we had a good talk. Asked him about how things were going at ART with the new general manager, Keith. And he said he's hadn't met him personally at that time. That was on June the 20th. But institution of new policies seemed well with him. But he said, he's looking forward to getting to know him. So Keith, he's looking for you. And Joe, I think he's 7 years a better driver. He was up at the transit. Got a chance to talk with him. Very good driver. And then the other thing that I was wanting to put out there, I got somewhat of an answer for the reasoning and the transit being locked up. It happened before when I was coming to transit on a Sunday, and dispatch locked the whole transit up and went driving the bus. So that wasn't supposed to happen again anymore. But on the 20th, I went up there to transit, and it was locked, and the little yellow sign on the door was saying, it's locked because they're cleaning up. That's what the little sign said. But then again, the other message that I got was the transit was closed because they don't have enough drivers. And then the other thing that I was thinking about was, if they don't have enough drivers, why is one driver been standing on the platform for a half hour and is waiting on his bus? I couldn't understand that point. But that's what I had to say about that. And that was on June the 20th. Carrie, you had your hand raised? And Amber?
Yeah, Harvey, just going back to your free fare days, is there going to be like a community flyer or something? Because I know we have like a neighborhood community board that I could post at local park, stuff like that, for those free fare days. I know we send out the text for anyone who's ever used the ART system on that text app, but if you haven't used it, that could be a good way to get information out.
Yeah, we have several agencies on board, and I think If I'm right, Chris, they'll be providing some kind of flyers, or we're going to get the flyers together at Transit, Chris?
Yeah, there will be flyers. I think it'll be a team effort as far as developing them. But then we'll be able to distribute those and share them with everybody.
Thank you. And Amber?
Yeah, raise my hand. I just wanted to, we have been working with Keith and LaShawn team on making sure that we provide adequate notice and information to our public if it does occur. With the closing of the transit center, we have worked collectively to make the decision that the lobby will not be closed up again due to driver shortages or cleaning. And that if it occurs that a customer service window or currently the customer service is being manned by dispatchers, which there's been a few times that they've been short drivers. They've closed the customer service window. We understand that this is an inconvenience. So we are working on better reporting and implementing notice and notification to the public if it does happen, which would include putting written notification at the window and at the transit center, as well as putting out an iRide just for folks that are needing to go and purchase tickets. So they're given the information. We are working with RETB Dev and the team to kind of look at staffing. They are trying to staff the customer service rep position and hope to get someone in place by the end of the month. And if Keith would like to give additional information, he sure can.
Thank you, Amber. We take our customer service commitment extremely seriously. There has been an incident in which the customer service window was not operable. There's an opportunity for us to look at the population or to expand the population for customer service representatives. And part of that initiative was getting in touch with high schools, with the alumni associations, and exploring opportunities for us to partner with recently graduated high school students and other adult programs in order to have these things staffed. I have discussed with my team more creative ways to address the customer service representative shortage, and I'll be sure to share that with the city, but it's certainly high on our radar. Currently, if it's not a supervisor manning the window in the absence of a customer service representative, it's a dispatcher. It's very important for us to keep our service running, especially during peak hours. And in the event that does occur, to protect service, we have supervisors positioned at the customer service window, and we have dispatchers operating buses. So we certainly are looking at strategic ways to better serve the public, but we have other initiatives that will partner with the city to correct and present to you all by the next time we meet.
Right.
And just to add, and probably Keith can speak more to it, and LaShawn, that there's sometimes peak, particularly during peak hours, and when you have more call outs, you try to plan for absences and call outs when you're hiring, but sometimes there's a lot of call outs, and I do understand, and our priority is providing the peak level service and all service, 100% service to accommodate our community and our riders. So if this does occur, we want to make sure that we're communicating those issues and that the public is aware of any inconvenience at the transit center or possibility of not being able to purchase tickets, but they would still be able to get into the lobby.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amber. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that explanation.
And let us know if there's any other concerns. I mean, we like to hear your input. And as Kim indicated, sometimes it's easier to address when we hear it right away. And I usually hear from Harvey, but if there's other concerns from y'all, just let us know. And we work with Keith and LaShawn and the team there. We've got a good, decent partnership to just try to make sure that we're as responsive as we can.
Okay. Thank you, Amber, and thank you, Keith. Next thing on my list, as far as it pertains to the transit committee. I was so glad to get an email last night at 8:30. Multimodal has joined transit committee, just economics mountain true, and advocating for increased funding frequency of the S3 and S6. And I think Joseph was wanting to say something about this pertaining to that. Multimodal joins the transit committee along with everybody else. Are you still there, Joseph?
Yes, sir.
Right.
My power went down on my laptop, so I'm on my phone. I don't have much to add to the letter in its tone. It simply supports the expansion of more frequency on the S2 and S6 if we can do it using funding that was previously allocated and has been discussed ad nauseum. What I wanted to reference is I think Amber covers it a little bit in her transit report update coming up in the next item, but the rescission of funding from Buncombe County, I don't have the item in front of me, Amber, but basically might give a shot in the arm for the funding, the lack of funding for this pilot or additional service. Would you like to expand that, Amber, or do you want to wait for your report?
I can expand a little bit. I didn't put it in my formal memo because it's not finalized yet. And actually, the county commissioners are voting on it.
They're meeting simultaneous with
yeah,
us.
they're meeting today. Can you guys hear me? I
Yes.
just want to make sure. I had a little feedback. No, they're actually meeting simultaneously on the rescission of the 5307 funds to the city of Asheville. And we will know more once that vote goes through. Then we will work collectively with the MPO because some of the funds that are included in this rescission are actually in obligated grants. And some are in unobligated grants, but they're through a grant award process through the MPO. So we have to provide a memo outlining the items and the funds and which particular grants. So then this information will go to the MPO in August because they, part of them, they award the JARC and the 5310 funds. And then it will be provided just as an information item on the rescission. We appreciate the support from the multimodal and the transit committee. The city is still looking at their options. Staff is currently working on recommendations of what to do with the funding, particularly for this project, if it is included. And if they do decide to proceed with the service enhancement, staff will provide recommendations. That's all that I can provide at this point in time, but we'll have more definite information, I hope, in August.
Great. Thanks, Amber. I appreciate it. Thanks, Harvey. That's really all I had. It's still an important component in our providing service to areas of need, and hopefully expansion can occur.
Thank you, Justin. That's definitely what we're looking at. Okay, Kara, go ahead.
Amber, I don't know if you can say or not, but do we know how much funding is looking at being potentially rescinded or is being discussed right here?
There is approximately $1.3 million that's included unallocated funds and obligated funds that Buncombe County currently has. There are some caveats to the funding. Some is in obligated grants that are in the name of Buncombe County. So they would be then, they would have to be designated through a budget revision through FTA to us. It gets kind of in the weeds about some of it. And some of the funding we actually were awarded that we're going to give to them to allow us to use the 5307. So there's some caveats and some kind of next steps for us to formalize with our funding partners to ensure that these funds can be transmitted to the city of Asheville, vice versa to Buncombe County, because we're trading some. It also does cover an annual allocation that they provide to us to provide service for the V1 extension. And they also provide funding for us to provide service on 170. So this will all be kind of summarized once we get the approval from those funding partners that we are allowed to make the budget revision, as well as the MPO has to change a resolution of a grant award from us to Buncombe County. So there's a lot of little pieces that have to fall in place. I don't foresee any issues, but it's about 1.3 million total. And collectively, I think like to the city is about 900,000 once you take the estimated, our current existing expenses, and you take away the funds that we're just kind of trading back and forth. It'll all be finalized once we are allowed to make those budget revisions, but we had to have the vote from the county first to take those next steps.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Joseph.
It does sound great. Amber, then I presume by your summary just now that the 4 caveats that are in the county motion are generally acceptable to the city. Is that fair to say?
I do not know if I think it's too early and we have to look at it. And I think, I would have to, talk to the city manager's office on the caveats. I was out for a few days at the beginning of July, and I think there were some discussions. So it's a little too early to know what those caveats are.
Okay.
There were some. I don't know if those are still there.
Well, we're hopeful and keep the eye on the prize. Thank you.
That's all I know, and hopefully I'll know more, and we can provide additional information in August when it's all finalized.
Good. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Joseph. Things sounding good. Things sound very good. Are there any more transit committee member updates and rider experiences? If not, we'll move on to departmental updates, city staff, monthly transit update memos.
I provided my memo for you all. If there's any questions in terms of any of the content that's included in the activities, they're kind of wrapping up our triennial, our general contract amendments and service amendments that we do annually were included in the budget last month and voted on. We are finalizing our drug and alcohol audit. Chris has been working on that. We are moving forward in our grant applications and working with our subrecipients on monitoring. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris to maybe discuss ridership. And we're working on some great enhancements, including Wi-Fi on buses. And I think they worked on a pilot of kind of a test demo. And I will let I'll let Chris talk about that fun stuff. And I think that the fare free days that we can work towards and on the transit training and the travel training, we're just excited to be staffed and working on some of the fun activities for the department and the division.
Yes.
Would you like me to jump in now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, the in terms of ridership, the high level, and you have access to the ridership sheet. The high level is that we were 6% over in June of this year over last year, and for the whole fiscal year, we were up 14% over last year. Towards the bottom of the first sheet, you'll see the differences by month on each route. The negatives are in N1, N2, and W5. So I know there's been a drop in ridership, possibly due to the detour at the campus. So hopefully we'll see that bounce back. W2 might be impacted by a lot of the construction on Patton, but it is interlined with S2. Both of those are lowest performing in terms of on-time performance, but that is something that we're working on, and we're meeting a couple times a month to as part of the service development committee to look at ways in which we can modify the schedules and just kind of develop a plan for implementing changes. So, I think there's nothing in the immediate future that will happen in terms of changes, but we are hoping that possibly in January to make some changes to some of the routes.
Okay.
I did, and I think, Kara, I believe you requested this. I did add the ridership numbers from going back to FY19. So that'll at least give you an idea. Some of the routes you'll see weren't active then, or in the more recent years, some of those routes were suspended because they got incorporated into other routes. So I hope that brings some clarity to that, but happy to take any questions in regards to the ridership.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. When you mentioned that 14% from last year, was that overall?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And with that overall, is there some kind, I haven't looked at it. Is there some kind of a figure associated with that overall 14%?
In terms, we've been increasing each year for at least the past 3 years. We are getting close to pre-pandemic levels. It looks like we did get more ridership from this year compared to FY20. But is that what you're
Not a number figure. Did you have a number figure for the 14%?
Like 1 point, like how much is that?
Oh, if you look on the fixed route only tab, it's in a couple places, but at the very bottom, you can see a grayed out column where it says year over year monthly variance. The total difference is 198,000 riders.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's hard to read. I just pulled it up.
Thank you, Amber. Yeah, 198,000 sounds good.
Yep, right there.
Right there.
This little portion right there shows the increase.
198,000.
Which is a 14% increase. And that is from the previous, this was the previous fiscal year, 23 was 1.38. And this is the total of riders, 1.58.
It's great to hear.
We're at least we're trending up compared to where we were at. We're still not to pre-COVID levels, but we're seeing a positive trend of 14% year over year, which I'm optimistic about. And some of the routes are really, if you look at some of Chris's information, the variances, like some of the routes are really doing quite well.
That's great.
And we'll dig into this deeper. We've been kind of giving you small bites of information. We will probably delve into it by boardings per revenue mile and per revenue hour, which kind of gives us we can do a system average and then look at like the route performance. So, and we can do that based on previous year's data.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Chris. Okay. Are there any further questions? I don't see anybody in the queue. Operational updates. Art staff. RATP there, General Manager update.
Thank you, Chair Harold, and again, good afternoon, Transit Committee. The GM's report is as follows. I think it's very important when we talk about on-time performance that we look at it in the context of how many service stops do we have? We have 63,915 service stops for the month of June that were observed. When we look at our ridership for the month of June was over 140,000 across all of our routes. The reason I mention those figures is before I get into the granular details of on-time performance is to highlight the commitment of our operators and us and ART putting out the level of service that we have. We've fulfilled 99% of our committed volume to move the public. With that being said, for the month of June, our on-time performance from June 1st through the 30th was 73%. We're holding flat from month to month. In May, it was 73%. However, what is that improvement? In June of 2023, our on-time performance was 70%. We've now increased to 73%. So year over year, we have a 3% increase. In May of 2023, our on-time performance was 71%. May of 2024, 73%. So we may be holding flat month to month, but we've certainly increased year over year in terms of on-time performance. Councilmember Wheeler, if I recall, last month you asked, did we do any deeper dives in our lates? So before I really talk about the lates, I think it's very important to note that our lates are not attributed to accidents or events or safety events. What we did find out that a lot of our latency issues are due to traffic. Traffic then takes upon seasonal changes. When you look at the time of day, traffic patterns begin to change. I did do a deeper dive looking at the S2, the W5, the S3, and the S1. We did go into a new markup July 7th. And what I'm seeing is it's primarily the same operators that are operating these routes. So it's not new operators, it's not a training issue, it's traffic. We have taken opportunities to work with Chris as part of our service development meetings, which we hold twice a month, that it could be an opportunity for us to look at the trend of lates and make some adjustments to the schedule, as opposed to the schedule leading on-time performance. Traffic patterns or seasonal changes will lead to the schedules. We may have to work backwards in order to make those changes. But that's a bigger and a longer discussion, but I wanted to assure you and the other committee members that just because something is late, ART and RATP, we're not sitting back and saying, okay, it's late, we'll try again tomorrow. We take these things very seriously. I hope that you can see our commitment in the trending of earlies going down. We've interviewed the operators. We tried to find out what were some of those issues. So we take OTP extremely seriously, but what we do have control over are the earlies, and the earlies have trended down. In May 2023, we were at 8% early. May 2024, 5% early. June 2023, 8% early. June of this year, 5% early. So we're certainly on the road to delivering better and on-time performance. As I did do some drill downs on the routes that I mentioned, I want to underscore that the S2 and the W5, they're interlined, or one affects the other. For the sake of time, looking at those 4 routes, even though we're running late, the good news is it's diminishing late. So the majority of our buses are running 6 minutes late. Yes, that goes outside of the parameters of on-time performance, but throughout the day, it starts to diminish. Then we see there's, for the S2, for example, we had 160 that are running 6 minutes or more late. Then throughout the day, we have 96 of them that are running 10 minutes or more late. So what does that mean? It means that we are trending, or our standard deviation is leaning more towards buses running 6 than anything running 10 minutes or more late. The reason 10 minutes or more late is very important is, as a management team, we're not going to take too much action on an operator running 6 minutes late. You start to get into the yellow when it's 10, 15, 30, then those, your antenna starts to go up. Do we need to start putting on another bus? Do we need to have a service recovery bus? Do we need to have an operator? When we get to our service development meetings, do we need to perhaps take buses off of one route, make it a 90-minute route to improve the frequency on another route? So there are now other things. So right now we're in the fact gathering and the trend analysis. But I certainly wanted to assure you these things aren't going under radar. We're taking deeper dives, and the partnership that we have with the city and the art leadership team working with Chris Whitlock has helped us momentously. Yes, Ms. Wagner.
I just wanted to just kind of highlight the efforts and thank you and Chris. This is something that we've started new within our division, working with the operations team. Is this Chris has implemented these 2 a month service development meetings, so we can look at the deep dives of our on-time performance. And we have to work hand in hand with operations, because sometimes there are issues that we can like improve and base more predictability in our schedules by doing some slight schedule modifications. Our on-time performance, the late trips are described and defined as being 5 minutes and over. So what can we do within our schedule and within the scheduling to kind of work collaboratively for the ridership experience? And those are the items that this team has been working on for the last couple months. So I just really appreciate you guys work on this, and it helps us. And I know this is some great information, Keith, and hopefully if you have any more additional questions from the transit committee, and hopefully this is valuable to you all. This is kind of service planning 101. When you look at it, we're diving into it a little bit, but we just want to provide this information to you all as the transit committee, that efforts are being made we understand that the community ridership experience is important. And we're looking at different areas and kind of on a route segment level basis.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Did that answer your previous question, Councilmember Kara?
Kara has a hand up. Go ahead, Kara.
Yeah, Kate. Thanks, Keith. On just transit committee, but really excited to hear about that you all are digging in, and that's really encouraging, as a writer, just to hear that, and that you're looking at it route by route. So yes, thank you. That definitely did. Just more for curiosity, I know you have a lot of experience in other systems. What do other systems do to combat traffic? I know we're not unique. Cars are ruling the roads out there.
Yes. In other transit agencies, they have service recovery vehicles. So no, we can't necessarily govern traffic, but we will put buses in strategic places that once a bus is late at a certain threshold, then we will deploy that bus. So it takes additional equipment, and it will take a robust extra board, which are what we call our firefighters. It would take that type of manpower, and we're certainly moving in that direction. And getting more efficiencies out of our current manpower without having to add in more staff.
Mhm.
And we're able to accomplish that with this July markup. Yep, thank you. We'll talk about some of our safety initiatives. In June 2023, there were 9 accidents. June 2024, we had 5 safety events. Out of those 5 safety events, only 2 of them were preventable. So I want to commend my staff for doing a great job in interviewing operators and looking at some accident mitigation strategies. We have community engagement. For June, we have started our community engagement rides. The community engagement rides is when our staff, myself, LaShawn, Danielle, and Scott Young, we take one Wednesday a month each. So 4 of us will take 1 week apiece, and we will ride the bus. We interact with the community. We see where we can make changes from the bus operator's point of view. We understand now the pain points from the customer's point of view. Some of those things that we have found in our community engagements is opportunities for some streets to be a one-way street. We've looked at bus stops, bus stop cleanliness, graffiti, all of these things, and we bring those things back to the lab and we reach out to the key players or to the major stakeholders. We partner with Chris. We partner with external stakeholders. So we're very glad because it's very important that that our leadership team reflects the community. So we're diverse on this side, and we want the community to see that we're diverse on the inside and that it's reflecting. We have completed our safety review and facility tour with senior leadership. So we've had a couple of tours, and we've invited RATPDF staff to come to the facility. We've looked at everything safety related, so it just goes beyond buses. It's the facility side, the maintenance side, all of these things. And so we've invited senior staff to just do an overview and to make our presentations to them. And what we're preaching right now to operators is safety over schedule. So that could be attributing to buses running later. We'd much rather an operator run late for safety reasons as opposed to rushing, trying to make a schedule. So we're continuing to preach that to the operators. Lastly, we have 2 out of 5 service supervisors this time. We have 1 service supervisor in queue. That supervisor will make us 3 out of 5. We're very happy to have him join and we're ready to deploy him, and that should be done by the end of July. We have 57 out of 59 bus operators. Our maximum head count is 59. We have 1 that's in behind the wheel. Another one is in our cadetting. So he should be released by the end of this month. So that would take our head count by the end of this month to 58 operators. We should be by 59 by the end of August. And for maintenance, currently we still have the interim maintenance manager. We have big news next month. But right now, our interim maintenance manager is still procuring parts. He did update me. We had some parts delivered for the Proterra buses, and we're excited to get those prepared and deployed again. That will conclude the general manager's report. I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Sounds like y'all doing a great job and getting better.
Thank you.
That's what I like.
Thank you, Chair Harold.
Love that. I love that. So next thing, when aren't we supposed to get some more buses soon?
I believe that won't be until next year. Is that correct?
March. We ordered them. I believe it's going to take 12 to 15 months. So they're scheduled to get here in March of 2025. We are this upcoming budget, the one that we're in right now for 25, has a couple buses, and we're going to be able to utilize some 5339 funds. So we'll be ordering likely 3 buses in the next month or so. We're working on finalizing the grant and programming some of those funds. The 5339 is a formula allocation that the city receives that we put towards our capital. So you'll see a bus order soon from us, but we don't get the ones that we just ordered this year, earlier in the year. I think in February or March. We won't get those until March.
Okay, and
Takes about 12 to 15 months.
and the parts for the Pantera buses, will that get them up and running, or will that just suffice for what you can get for right now?
It's like whack-a-mole. You get one part and you get something moving, and then something else comes down. We're working collaboratively with other agencies that also have these Proterra buses. Greensboro has a large amount in their fleet. Some folks are cannibalizing. We actually are going to meet tomorrow, Paul, Jessica, and I, and Keith, and kind of discuss our next step forwards with the Proterra fleet. We are still paying for a battery lease each month on these, and some of them are not operable. So we're looking at our next steps and what can be done for the feasibility, because they're not really providing much service for our fleet. Possibly once we get these parts shaken out and get the service up, we may get a couple more, 2 to 3 up, I think. It just depends on getting the parts, and I think it took months and months to get the parts. So it's still limping along. This is still an industry-wide issue, and people are still trying to work towards what do we do with them.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds great. Sounds good. Sounds great. Kara?
Keith, I was wondering if it would be possible to get a graph on the mechanical road calls tab that just kind of shows like either Pareto chart or pie chart of which buses particular, like if one's trending higher or something, because it looks like 1802, I mean, it's one of the Proterras. I always look for the Proterras in the list. It had quite a few calls for it last month, whereas other Proterras I didn't really see in the list. Maybe because they're not running. I'm not sure.
They're not running probably. And a lot of those, they have to be switched out because they can't run an entire. So we would have to probably categorize those service calls to make sure we're categorizing correctly, that if it's a breakdown or if they're just switching it out on route.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And maybe Chris and Keith and Scott can work on that for the next report, provide some additional information.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the request. Can you repeat that for me, please? You said a graph of what? I'm sorry.
Just, I'm not sure what makes sense, and I'll trust your logic on there. Either for like bus ID, for which bus is like being pulled out often, or maybe because there's some numbers that look like they keep popping up over and over again on that mechanical roll call, or even filter buttons that we could filter and sort. Is we have view only for us, so it's kind of hard to play with.
Okay.
The data.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kara. Colin has his hand up.
I was just going to respond to Kara because I was looking at the mechanical calls that she was looking at, and I was able to sort on the bus type, and yeah, it's like lines 47 through line 70 is in that spreadsheet is all 1802, if that's the Proterra bus. So
yeah, the 18s are Proterra. And if you look at our bus IDs, usually the first number is the year. So all the 10s are 2010s. The 12s are 2012s. And you'll probably see those get called out more for road calls. They're a 10-year bus. Most systems are retiring their 12-year buses in about 12 to 13 years, maybe even 14. 10-year buses, usually 10 to 12, maybe 13 years. And we are taking our buses way beyond that, which does require additional maintenance and road calls and additional expenses to maintain the fleet, because we're unable to retire them.
Okay. One other question, Keith, Amber. How is our staff in the maintenance department doing? Do you have enough mechanics?
Yes, thank you, Chair Howard. No, we are actively recruiting for technicians. We're actively recruiting for part-time fuelers. So there are approximately 3 positions that are vacant, soon to be 4 positions that are vacant in maintenance. However, the interim maintenance manager, Mr. Young, has been interviewing candidates to have these filled. And we have a potential candidate to fill the part-time bus fueler position.
Okay. Thank you. LaShawn has her hand up.
We also have a tech and a utility that we are waiting on background information on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
Okay. And then he'll be employed.
Yes, he's went through the interview already. Now we're just waiting on the background and drug test.
Okay. Thank you, LaShawn.
Welcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. We're looking good now. That's all right. Are there any more questions? Okay. I guess everybody's satisfied with the results we got today. We went through a lot. We're running a bit over time, but not much. It's good. I appreciate everything that staff has provided us with. I appreciate all my members for joining us today, my committee members joining us today. And we heard a lot of good information today. And I appreciate everybody coming today. And next time we'll see each other be August the 20th. And I thank you all and have a good evening and a good night.